You have other billionaires owning the major media outlets in this country, CNN, if you look at who owns them, you're looking at large Wall Street firms. So you already have a major, serious problem in terms of ownership of the media.
Senator Bernie Sanders decided to speak truth to power and call out corporate media, namely CNN, while appearing on CNN, which is something I absolutely love seeing from Bernie. So this began as a conversation about Trump being flanked by this brigade of billionaires at his inauguration and their growing influence over his policy priorities. Take a look.
What was it like for you to see those people, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, all sitting behind Trump yesterday, and not just behind him, but sitting next to his cabinet?
Well, you know, Kaitlan, as you may know, I have been talking about my fears as to how the United States is moving rapidly toward an oligarchic form of society. And anybody who was in the room or on TV and saw the President of the United States surrounded by the three wealthiest people in this country, one of whom made hundreds of millions of dollars in campaign contributions to him, at the same time when we have more concentration of ownership than we have ever had. The conclusion I hope that most people reach is that we are moving toward an oligarchy. We've got to fight back. We've got to protect our democracy. We need an economy that works for all, not just the people on top.
I mean, the message seems, or is, it's not seems, is so much more authentic coming from Senator Sanders, who's been principled in this messaging, who has cared about this issue for a long time. This isn't something new coming from Senator Sanders.
Oh yeah, no, you can read old interviews with him saying basically the same thing back in the 90s. I think somewhere in France there's a cave drawing of him giving a lecture about it or whatever. He's been saying that for a long time, and he's 100% right. If we'd had him in 2016, maybe we could have avoided a lot of this. I'm hopeful that they're being so brazen with it that maybe this is a chance to break through and get people regular. Like I don't know if you saw the Google Trends chart going around of searches for what is an oligarchy. And it was like, I don't know, a week or two, and all of a sudden it was like, wow. Because everybody's like, oh yeah, every rich person in the country is hanging out with Trump simultaneously, maybe that's a bad thing. But what I worry is, they've always, the question of America is, can we get poor and working people to vote against their interests? And they've used what tools they've had for a long time, a lot stoking racism and inter-race tension and all that. That's been a go-to for hundreds of years. They've got right-wing media and everything. Lately, they've been really leaning into LGBTQ stuff to try to get people to ignore their own economic interests. And now we have an opportunity to be like, they're literally setting up post-Soviet Russia in America. That's what they've got. But they also, the Russian oligarchs didn't own the social media sites. They might have owned the newspapers and the TV stations, but they themselves weren't characters. They weren't trolls that you see every day going on Joe Rogan and everything. And so maybe that will just make more clear to regular people how terrible and out of touch these billionaires are, or maybe it'll be successful and they'll continue to support a party that is clearly part of the rule of the rich that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, look, I think the argument that voters are voting against their best interests was a credible argument maybe several election cycles ago when voters had an option between a party that was less corrupted by corporate interests versus a party that had flaunted the corruption of, in the party due to corporate interests. Now you have the Democratic Party that's very much in favor of the corruption, engages in the corruption, takes money from the billionaire oligarchs. Bernie Sanders is an exception, which is why what he's saying is more authentic compared to what we heard from Biden in his farewell address. Biden in his farewell address brings up the oligarchs, just like Bernie Sanders does, but Biden's been taking money from the oligarchs, okay? The mainstream Democratic Party and the corporate Democrats within the mainstream Democratic Party are very much in favor of this whole situation. So if you are a voter and you have to choose between two parties based on which party empowers the oligarchs less, you can't really point to the Democrats.
Yeah, I think that you can. I think that they both do. I don't want them to say any of the money that they do, and I do think it's fundamentally corrupt. I think Joe Biden has been a part of that like his entire career. I totally agree with you there. But Biden wasn't going to try to ram through trillions of dollars of tax cuts in 2 months if he had been reelected. That's what Trump's major domestic policy priority is. He's killing the limited price controls that we have for medication. He's going to put in those tariffs that are going to utterly devastate working people, costing them thousands of additional dollars every year just to buy the normal things they have to. Like, they're both corrupt, 100%. That's a reality that we've had to address at TYT since the very beginning. But I do think that there are some major distinctions in terms of policy. And Biden, I think, was way too close with the economic elites, but I don't know, they weren't partying with them literally every night. He wasn't opening up new government departments just to let them play and do whatever they want.
I mean, look, I don't think Biden is even physically capable of doing much partying, okay?
Yeah, maybe if he was younger, he'd be more corrupt.
Yeah, but look,
corruption is a young man's game.
I just disagree. I think Democrats want to give the illusion of being different policy-wise, but when push comes to shove, they love to campaign on things like increasing taxes for corporations. Once Biden got elected, did he fight to increase taxes on corporations? The first bid from Biden was, all right, Donald Trump lowered corporate taxes from 35% to 21%. Let's get them back up to 28%. That was his proposal. Sure. And then he didn't fight for it at all.
Trump's proposal is to take it to 15, and he's almost certainly going to do that.
Oh, he will do that, absolutely.
So 15 and 20 are pretty different, though.
But look, my point is, Democrats talk a big talk, but they don't actually fight to reverse the damage done by Republicans. And in fact, oftentimes, on the down low, they aid and abet the redistribution of wealth from the bottom to the top.
I think I largely agree with you. It's just a matter of degree of how much, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think
if you want to argue that Republicans are more corrupt, okay, I guess. But then you look at the figures of, campaign donations from billionaires to Democrats versus Republicans in the 2024 election cycle, and they overwhelmingly supported Kamala Harris over Donald Trump.
And that I think is a very relevant piece of evidence, but also I think the policies they're gonna pass are super significant too. And I think that tax cut bill is gonna be a massive punch in the balls to working Americans.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, Donald Trump is totally unchained. Like, he's not worried about the optics and will do favors for corporate America. He did it in his first term. Definitely gonna do it in his second term, has already begun. Democrats are better about trying to hide it. So, because they know that they're probably gonna be held accountable by voters to a larger extent compared to Republican voters holding Republican politicians accountable for the corruption.
Look, I think we agree on the solution.
Yeah, we gotta get money out of politics, but it goes further than that. I mean, the way our media is funded is an issue. The way members of Congress are able to trade individual stocks is an issue. Like, corruption is part and parcel of our political system. And I think it would be a mistake to think that it only impacts one party over the other.
And I don't. I want to be clear about that. I don't think it impacts them equally. But yes, I think you're right about the money in politics. But I think the short-term solution is we need our Daenerys Targaryen, someone who's not just going to continue the wheel, but they're going to break the wheel. That's what we need. And Bernie Sanders could have been that person, theoretically. And unfortunately, was stolen from us, but hopefully there will be someone else.
Yeah, and he was crushed by the mainstream Democratic Party. Now, Bernie slammed the whole media ecosystem while he was on CNN and made his concerns about who controls news outlets and social media platforms very clear.
When Trump says he would be okay if Elon Musk tried to buy TikTok.
Well, I mean, this is what oligarchy is about. You have Jeff Bezos, owns the Washington Post. Mr. Musk already owns Twitter. You have other billionaires owning the major media outlets in this country. CNN, other companies. If you look at who owns them, you're looking at large Wall Street firms. So you already have a major, serious problem in terms of ownership of the media. If Musk ends up owning TikTok, it'll only make a bad situation much worse. You have a small number of very wealthy people who own the media, who in recent months have kind of caved in to Trump. You're having Trump suing various media outlets, and it's going to result, I think, in a fear of the media standing up to Trump. The First Amendment is enormously important. We need media who are fearless in speaking out on the issues of the day, and you're not going to have that when you have a small number of very wealthy people controlling what we see, hear, and read.
So after that, Kaitlan Collins immediately pivoted to a different topic. I think she asked about Tulsi Gabbard. But she probably did that because it was an uncomfortable conversations for an employee of CNN on CNN, as your guest is literally trashing the ownership of CNN.
Yeah, and you can't dispute it.
And you can't dispute it. Yeah, CNN is owned by Warner Brothers Discovery, a publicly traded company. Institutional investors own about 61% of Warner Brothers Discovery shares, and those include Vanguard Group, BlackRock, State Street Corp, Morgan Stanley and others. And among the types of companies that advertise on CNN, you have, of course, banks, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, law firms that are looking to find, plaintiffs in a, big class action lawsuits. Mesothelioma, of course, lots of that. But you guys get the point, right? So I don't necessarily think that every advertiser is going to influence the coverage of what they're doing, but I do think the institutional investors who owns these media platforms plays a big role. And so you're less likely to cover the private equity firms buying up residential real estate if BlackRock is one of your institutional investors.
Yeah.
So these are real issues that I'm happy Bernie Sanders is still bringing to the table, drawing attention to, even though this is gonna be his last term in the Senate.
Don't say that.
No, it's devastating. I mean, it's totally devastating.
Why would you even put that out there?
I mean, I'm so black-pilled on Democrats right now. With Bernie gone, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So what's left? We'll see, we'll see. I don't wanna be too negative, but it's gonna be the end of an era, a better time in Democratic politics.
I know.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.